I did it again. I just took a deep dive into Harbor Freight trying to find some of their most viral tools available. But this time I had a goal in mind, as I couldn't spend more than $15 on any one item. And surprisingly, I found a handful of items. So join me today as we take a deep dive into these viral Harbor Freight tools under 15 bucks. So just like I always do, I immediately took a shower after visiting the freight. But even so, I walked away from that store with some pretty incredible items, as $15 goes a heck of a lot further than many of your other big box stores. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into these viral Harbor Freight tools. This is the Bremen 12-inch trigger clamp and spreader. Let's give it a look. Speaking of spreaders, there's only one piece of John Deere equipment that I do not stand behind, and that's their manure spreader. So Bremen is a brand that I've had some experience with, and frankly I've been quite impressed, as I purchased some parallel clamps a few months ago and I've already used these on a couple of projects. But you do have to be careful as to what clamps you pick off the shelf, as one of my two sets of parallel clamps had a bent bar. So I spent a little more time reviewing this quick clamp before I put it in my cart. So let's take a closer look at why I picked up this 12-inch trigger clamp and spreader. One of the first things you'll notice about this clamp is it's got one of the most ergonomic grips I've ever seen on a quick clamp. Not only does this clamp have a cutout for your thumb, but it also has 4 notches for each one of your fingers. And this trigger clamp works like any other quick clamp by simply depressing the orange trigger to clamp it down. And to release the clamp, it's just as easy. By simply depressing that black tab right in front of that orange trigger, it opens up that clamp. And the clamping force of this clamp is really quite impressive, having a clamping force of 375 pounds. And the body of the clamp feels very high quality, as it's made from sturdy reinforced nylon. If we look at the bar of the clamp, you can see it's just as high quality, as it's got an I-beam construction that prevents flexing and bowing. But let's take a closer look at the clamping jaws. As you can see, just like any other quick clamp, it's got a pad on each one of the faces of those jaws. And the clamping capacity is really quite impressive, having a throat depth of 3 3/16 of an inch. But as I mentioned earlier, this is not only a clamp but also a spreader. Let's take a look at how that works. To convert this clamp to a spreader, it has everything to do with this little orange tab on the side. By simply depressing that orange tab, the front jaw is easily removed. And once you have the front jaw removed, all you need to do is to slide it onto the other side until you hear that orange tab click into place. And just like that, you've instantly converted this clamp into a spreader, which has got to be one of the easiest clamp conversions that I've ever seen. And for this reason alone, I can totally understand why this Bremen 12-inch trigger clamp has gone viral, especially when you consider the price of just $9.99 for each one of these clamps. But we're just getting started. Let's move on to our next viral Harbor Freight tool for less than 15 bucks. This is the US General Magnetic Hanging Tray. Let's give it a look. Hanging? You know your mama's so ugly her portraits hang themselves. So this is an item I had no idea about, and when I saw it on the shelves, I knew I had to give it a look. And it was really hard for me to make a decision on what I wanted to get, as there was a ton of different variations of this tool. But in the end, I selected something that best fits my needs for my shop. Let's give it a quick look. So at first glance, this may look like any other tool tray that you might find at a hardware store, but it has some unique features. One of the first things you may notice on this tray are the 3 small holes on either side of the tray. These holes are made so that you can place up to 6 screwdrivers or similar items on each side of the tray. And if we look at the tray itself, not only does it have a lip on the very front to prevent things from falling out, but it has a pretty large footprint, having a depth of about 4.5 inches and a width of 12 inches. But none of these features are what make this tray unique. To understand that, we need to flip the tray around. Not only does this tray have 4 powerful rubber-coated magnets on the back, but it also has a rubber lip on the very bottom. It's these magnets that allow you to attach this magnetic tray to any magnetic surface, like a metal door or even a metal file cabinet. And once in place, you can begin to add your tools like 3 screwdrivers on either side of the tray. But screwdrivers aren't the only thing that this tray can accommodate, as you can add up to 7.5 pounds right on top of that tray of supplies and materials. And because of this hanging tray's flexibility and versatility, I can totally understand why this item has become viral from Harbor Freight, especially when you consider the price tag of just $14.99 for this item. But we're just scratching the surface. Let's move on to our next viral tool. This is the Pittsburgh 9-inch drill press locking clamp. Let's give it a look. You know, I went to a store the other day that sells door locks for little people. Low key, it was pretty nice. So if you look at my drill press table, you're going to find that there's all sorts of quick clamps around the edges holding things down. And this works okay, but it becomes a little bit difficult when I need to hold something down in the center of my table. And this is exactly why I decided to get this locking drill press clamp. Let's get this thing out of the box to get a closer look at how this works. So my first impressions with this clamp is it looks like one of my dad's old adjustable clamps combined with a face clamp, and that's basically what it is. But the real power of this clamp has everything to do with the little round nut on the very bottom of the clamp. If we remove that round knob entirely, we can head over to the drill press and take a look at how this works. By simply taking the bolt of the clamp and sliding it through your drill press table, you can reattach that round nut to the very bottom to secure the clamp in place. And with that clamp secured to your drill press table, you can quickly and easily secure small pieces of wood right to the center of your drill press table, making doing some of your detailed drilling work a heck of a lot easier and safer. And you can accommodate a variety of different size stock with its maximum jaw opening of 2 inches and a throat depth of 3 inches. And any tool with this much flexibility and promotes safety is a no-brainer in my book. And at only $11.99, I can totally understand why this tool is so popular. But let's move on to our next viral Harbor Freight tool. This tiny little guy is the Pittsburgh Mini Utility Knife. Let's give it a quick look. You know, if you ever get in a knife fight with a bunch of clowns, you always go for the juggler. So this is one of those items when I first saw it, I thought it might be a toy. But I'm pretty sure you're going to want to keep this away from children. Let's get it out of the box and take a look. Now at first glance, this may look like any other utility knife, but when we compare it to a full-size one, you can begin to see how small this is. That's right, this utility knife when folded down only has a length of 2.5 inches, which not only makes it perfect to fit in your pocket, but also can be used as a keychain. If we take a closer look at the utility knife, you can see it works like any other knife. You simply press on the spine to remove the blade and it locks into place. Now, since we're dealing with a smaller knife, it's obviously going to need smaller blades, and you can see the size difference between a normal size blade and this blade, which was honestly one of the few things that concerned me about this tool when I got it. But when I looked on Amazon, these blades are available from them. But you won't need blades right away, as it does come with 5 blades right in the box. And the blades on this knife are just as easily replaced as a normal utility knife. Simply pull up on the tab on the back and the front, and you can see how the blade is locked into place with the hole right in the middle. And since each one of these blades has 2 sides on them, you can get twice the lifetime out of these blades. And with the knife fully extended, you're still looking at a length of about 4 inches, which is still comfortable enough to cut with. And because this item has all the features of a regular size utility knife at a fraction of the size, I can totally understand why this tool has become viral. And with this knife only being $5.49, this is definitely worth picking up. In fact, it might be a great stocking stuffer. Well, that takes us through 4 viral Harbor Freight items, but we've got a heck of a lot more to check out. Before we move on to our next one, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it truly does help out this woodworking channel. Also, if you haven't already, check out my website, FlynnDoggWoodwork.com, where you can get access to all sorts of fun woodworking accessories like all the t-shirts that I wear in my videos, and I've just released some new models. And if any of the tools we take a look at today interest you, I'll leave links in the description below for these tools or similar items. And finally, if you'd like to support the channel further, check out my channel memberships where you can get early access to all my videos as well as 1 member video a week. Now let's get back to those viral tools. This is the Bauer 30-piece jigsaw blade set. Let's check it out. Did you hear about that lady that backed up into a jigsaw blade? Yep, disaster. So I've recently picked up a couple of jigsaws, and frankly, one thing that I always lose are the blades for these saws. So when I saw this jigsaw blade set, I thought it was a great way to stock up to make sure that I always have a blade. And I think you'll be impressed at what this set comes with. Let's take a closer look at the box so that we can get a better understanding. You'll first notice there's a lot of different blades here with a lot of different sizes, with the smallest being 3 inches long and the largest being 6 inches long. And there's all sorts of blades in here, everything from down cut to up cut to even some carbide grit blades. And if you're curious as to the exact specs of all these blades, you can see all the details right here. And one of the nice things about all 30 of these blades is they all have that same T-shank design, which almost every jigsaw on the market today accommodates this style. But the 30 blades aren't the only thing that come with this set. This last item is something that's perfect for me. That's right, there's actually a tiny drawstring bag that's big enough to hold all those 30 blades, making sure that I know exactly where my blades are and prevent me from losing using them all the time. And it's exactly for this reason that this 30-piece jigsaw blade set has become viral from Harbor Freight, especially when you consider the price of just $14.99, which is about 50 cents a blade. But let's move on to our next Harbor Freight viral tool. This is the Pittsburgh 3/4 inch pipe clamp with base. Let's give it a look. You know, that reminds me, what's 7 inches long and hasn't been sucked in over 13 years? Whitney Houston's pipe. So when it comes to pipe clamps, there's one brand that rules the game, and that is Bessie. But when I saw these Pittsburgh ones, I thought they looked a heck of a lot like those Bessies, so I knew I had to give them a try. Now before we dive into this pipe clamp, I do want to make two distinctions. First off, this is a 3/4 inch pipe clamp, and secondly, it does have a base. These are two very important attributes that you're going to want to have with these Pittsburgh clamps, but let's get this thing out of the box and take a closer look. Now if you've never worked with pipe clamps before, these are extremely easy to set up. The first thing that you're going to need is a piece of 3/4 inch pipe. Then you simply take one of the threaded ends of the pipe and screw it into the side of the pipe clamp that has the screw latch. And once that side's attached, simply attach the other clamping jaw by depressing the silver tabs on the spine. Now that we have our pipe clamp together, let's first take a look at how this compares to the Bessie by first taking a look at the screw clamp head. And as you probably noticed there's very little difference between these two clamping jaws. Not only do they both have that rotating handle, but they also have a spot for your thumb on the opposite side to give a little bit more pressure. And both jaws have the same range of motion of about 2¼ inches. And if we look at the feet of the screw jaw side, you can see the Bessie has got a T-shaped design while the Pittsburgh has got an L shape. And finally, let's look at the clamping jaws themselves. Now if you're familiar with Bessie, they do come with these plastic caps that always tend to slide off. But the Pittsburgh doesn't come with any, which actually may be a better idea, as it's got these two holes where you can add screws and a wood block to make your clamping jaw yourself. And if we look at the other clamping jaw of this pipe clamp, you can see that the Bessie and the Pittsburgh are almost identical, except for that plastic sheath and the two drill holes on the Pittsburgh. And really, other than those items, I'm seeing no major differences between these two clamps, other than the price, with the Pittsburgh being about 25% cheaper. And although I love Bessie, I can totally see why these cheaper Pittsburgh clamps have become viral. But let's move on to our next Harbor Freight tool, which is about as simple as it gets. This is the Pittsburgh Orange Dead Blow Hammer. Let's give it a look. Dead, huh? I still remember the day when they pronounced my dad dead. Can't believe I pronounced it wrong all those years. Now at Harbor Freight, they've got a ton of different varieties of this type of hammer, including all different types of weights. But I went with the 1-pound version of this hammer because I liked its smaller size. Let's talk about some of the unique features of this dead blow hammer. One of the first things you'll probably notice is its orange color. It's this color that's going to make this thing a heck of a lot harder to lose. And this orange colored hammer is made of PVC material, so it's going to resist most of the chemicals you might throw at it. And not only does the handle got a very nice, comfortable, non-slipping grip, but it's also got a steel core. But let's take a closer look at the head of this hammer, as it's got a non-marring surface. Not only that, but if you wanted to use this in the garage, its softer surface prevents sparking when it's in contact with things like concrete. And you can even hear the added weight they incorporated into the head of the hammer if you give it a shake and put your ear up to it. And with so many different size and weight options with this hammer, I don't think you can afford to overlook this Harbor Freight viral dead blow hammer, especially when you consider the price of this 1-pound mallet at just $6.99. Now those were all the viral items that I picked up from Harbor Freight that were less than $15 a piece, but I ended up picking up 2 more items. And these last 2 items are a little bit random, but I still think they're worth picking up. You know, I'm pretty good at remembering random facts. Did you know there's over 3,500 different types of lice? And that's just off the top of my head. This is the US General Magnetic 5-outlet power strip. Let's give it a look. So this little gem was found in an area with all sorts of magnetic tools. And although a little bit more pricey at just under 34 bucks, I knew I needed to check it out. Now, although this may look like any other power strip, there are 3 unique features that really got me about this tool. The first thing is that along with those 5 outlets, there's also 2 USB-A ports for a more modern workshop, which I'm noticing the more time goes on, more of my tools are requiring this type of outlet. Secondly, if we look on either end of this power strip, you'll see there's a couple of hooks. These hooks are meant to be a cord wrap so that you can get your electrical cord out of the way when it's not in use. And finally, the third and final feature that set this power strip apart are the 2 non-marring magnets on the very back. It's these magnets that allow you to add a power strip to some of your most used areas in your shop, like your table saw or your router table. And it's because of this power strip's ability to give you the power you need where you need it that it's become so viral at Harbor Freight. And there's one more viral item that I picked up from Harbor Freight on my last trip, and I didn't pay a cent for it. And this item is a tool that I've already featured on one of my previous viral Harbor Freight tool videos. If you don't have one of these, this is something you're definitely going to want to pick up. This is the US General 18-inch magnetic tool holder. This item was a free gift that I got for spending over $100 on my latest trip. And I have these things all over my shop, whether it's over at the router table to hold those extra router bits, or if it's over at the drill press to hold those extra drill bits. And this item retails for only $4.99, so even at that price, it's a great pickup for your shop. So whether holding wrenches or bits, I think you can understand why this tool has become viral from Harbor Freight. And that covers all of the amazing viral Harbor Freight tools that I picked up on my last visit. I really had a lot of fun today, and I hope you did too. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it truly does help. Also, if you haven't already, check out my website, FlynnDoggWoodwork.com, where you can find all sorts of fun woodworking accessories like all the t-shirts that I wear in my videos. And once again, I just released some new models. And if any of these tools we took a look at today interest you, I'll leave links in the description below of the tools themselves or similar items. And lastly, if you'd like to support the channel further, check out my channel memberships, where you can get early access to all my videos as well as one member video a week. Until next time, take care as always. All right, let's get it. You know, when I see two lovers' names carved into a tree, I don't think it's sweet. I think it's disturbing how many people bring a knife to a date. Come on. Let's try this one. Did you hear about the two bodybuilders that met in hell? The first one asked the second one, you know where I can get a protein shake? The other one said, there's no way in hell. Come on. All right, last try. You know, my grandfather killed 30 German planes in World War II. Yep, he was the worst mechanic Berlin had ever seen.